Every year, the Halle family reunion was a lavish event, showcasing generations of wealth and carefully planned public appearances at the Halle Grand Hotel in downtown Chicago. Family members, extended relatives, and business investors gathered. For the weekend to commemorate the Halle legacy, tonight was no exception. The grand ballroom was adorned with golden crystal chandeliers that cascaded light across the room. In some areas of the city, the floral arrangements and table settings alone would cost more than a month's rent. The room bustled with chatter, laughter, and the clinking of fine china as waiters moved among the patrons, refilling champagne flutes. Among them, my wife, Isabel, stood tall, composed, and graceful. Without even trying, her natural elegance drew attention, making her everything a man should desire: beautiful, successful, the epitome of perfection. She was the evening's star, standing by the side of the stage in a sleek black evening gown that accentuated her form, holding a crystal award, the Family Legacy Award, a distinguished honor bestowed upon the Halle who best embodied integrity, leadership, and steadfast dedication to family values. As I rocked our 3-month-old son Caleb in my arms, I let out a slow breath and adjusted my weight. He was nestled against my chest, his tiny breaths warm against my shirt, and yet the words family, values tasted like iron in my mouth. Because I now understood the truth. The woman about to accept an award for love and loyalty was a fraud. I hadn't been looking for it. I had no intention of discovering the truth. But this morning, it had fallen into my lap like some cruel cosmic joke. Isabel was in the shower when her phone lit up on the nightstand. I wasn't snooping. I wouldn't have even noticed if it weren't for the preview notification. "I'm eager to replace your dull husband first. Missed your touch from this morning." For a moment, I thought I had misread it. A joke? A mistake? But then I saw the sender, Julian Rivers, her personal aide, a 26-year-old man who barely had enough money for a studio apartment in the city. A man who worked for her. A searing cold, pain cut through my ribs. I could hear Isabel humming to herself in the shower, completely unaware that her perfect world was already cracking. My hands were steady as I grabbed her phone. The passcode was the same. Our honeymoon date. What I found made my stomach turn. Emails, private pictures, some taken in our own bed, travel plans to Italy, reserved under her company's name. He's always so naive. I kept scrolling. Voice notes. Julian's voice filled the room. "Just a little longer. He's busy playing loving parent. Once we get the right clients on board, Holloway & Company will be history." My fingers tightened around the phone. This wasn't just an affair. This was premeditated. They were plotting to destroy my family, my in-laws' business. Everything. I should have felt anger, betrayal, despair. But all I felt was certainty. For 6 years, I had worshipped a woman who had been living a lie. And now, she was about to stand before a cheering audience, accepting an award for integrity. But tonight, I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to let her fall. She stepped out of the shower minutes later, wrapped in a towel. She kissed my cheek as she picked up her phone, completely unaware. I sat in the ballroom, watching her get ready, clueless that I had just seen her for who she truly was. I felt nothing but cold calculation as I repositioned Caleb in my arms. The announcer's voice rang out. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Isabel Halle, our evening's honoree." The crowd erupted in applause. She walked onto the platform with practiced elegance, smiling, poised, the perfect politician. She lifted the microphone, ready to deliver a speech about family values. And then, her phone buzzed. Behind her, projected, onto the massive screen for the entire ballroom to see. "Round 2, lovely. He'll never know how amazing you were this morning." The room fell into dead silence. Isabel's smile froze. The microphone slipped from her grasp. A dull thud echoed through the hall. I rocked Caleb gently, whispering to him as I watched her world burn. Gasps. Whispers. Someone stifled a shocked laugh. Time slowed. Isabel stood there, her face draining of color. The flawless mask she had, worn for years, crumbled. The silence pressed down like a weight. Then her phone buzzed again. Another message. Another knife to the gut. Have you told him yet, or are we waiting until we steal the clients first? The truth was undeniable now. This wasn't just an affair. This was a betrayal on every level. I glanced at her father, Harrison Halley. He was seated at the head of the table, his expression carved from stone, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought it might shatter. And then, the final blow. Her phone lit up with an incoming FaceTime call. Julian Rivers. His grinning, shirtless profile picture flashed across the massive screen. The ballroom exploded. Gasps. Shouts. Someone muttered, "Oh my God!" Isabel lunged for her phone, scrambling to silence the call. Her movements were jerky, desperate. She looked around wildly, searching for someone, anyone to come to her rescue, but no one did. Her mother sat still, shaking her head in disgust. Her co-workers stared at her like she was a walking scandal. And I simply adjusted Caleb in my arms. Then, calmly, I spoke. "Is there anything you'd like to add to your speech about family values?" The room held its breath. Isabel's lips parted, but no words came out. Then someone in the crowd scoffed, "Oh, that looks exactly like what it is." A bitter chuckle escaped me. And then her phone buzzed again. Another message. "So, have you told him yet, or are we waiting?" The whispers turned into a deafening roar. Her father rose slowly. His chair scraped against the marble floor. Harrison Halley, the man who had built an empire, now stood, hands clenched into fists. His eyes burned with cold, furious rage. Isabel turned to him, voice shaking. "Dad, please, I can explain." His expression didn't change. The man was ice. Her voice cracked. She looked around, hoping for support. But all she found was judgment. And me? I held Caleb a little closer. "I'll have my attorney contact you," I said, my voice even. "I'll be requesting full custody." Isabel's head snapped toward me. "You—" I didn't wait. I turned on my heel and walked away. The weight of every eye in that ballroom followed me as I strode toward the exit, my son in my arms. Behind me, Isabel's perfect life lay in ruins. She called after me, "Wait, please, I—" Didn't stop. I didn't look back, because for the first time in months, I could finally breathe. Breath hitched. "You cheated, Isabel. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed your own family. You planned to steal from them. Do you honestly believe any judge is going to see you as the stable parent?" She shook her head wildly. "I'm still his mother," I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my hair. "Yeah, you are. But being a mother means putting him first, and you haven't done that in a long time." She sucked in a shaky breath, wiping furiously at her tears. "I can fix this." I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Some things can't be fixed," I said, simply. She went still. Her hands fell to her sides, her lips parting slightly as the words settled in. For the first time since this nightmare started, I saw it hit her. The realization, the understanding that there was no coming back from this. That she had truly lost me. She turned away, pressing a hand to her forehead as she sucked in a shaky breath. "So what happens now?" I leaned against the table, crossing my arms over my chest. Now we talk lawyers. We figure out a schedule that works for Caleb. We move forward. She let out a small, broken laugh. "Just like that?" I shrugged. "Just like that? How can you be so cold?" she whispered. I met her gaze. "You made me this way." She let out a strangled sob, covering her mouth with her hand. "I never meant to hurt you. I shook my head slowly. But you did. And the worst part? You didn't care until you got caught. Her shoulders trembled as she looked away. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to fight for. I straightened, my voice firm. I'll be staying at a hotel for a few days. I'll send you the lawyer's contact information. Her head snapped up. You're leaving? I exhaled. I don't want to be. Here, Isabel, not with you. Her breath shuddered. I can't do this alone. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I said the words that sealed everything. You already are. Her face crumpled, but I didn't stay to watch. I grabbed my keys, kissed my son's forehead, and walked out the door, and I didn't look back. The hotel room was quiet, too quiet. For the first time in years, I wasn't under the same roof as Isabel. No lingering scent of her perfume in the air, no soft shuffle of her movements in the next room. No tension pressing against my ribs every time she glanced at her phone. I should have felt relief. Instead, all I felt was emptiness. I sat on the edge of the bed, running a hand down my face. Everything had unraveled so fast. Just yesterday, I had been holding my son in that ballroom, watching my wife accept an award for family values. And now? Now I was sitting alone in a sterile hotel room. My marriage in ruins. My trust shattered. She did this. I reminded myself of that fact over and over. She had been the one to cheat. She had been the one to plan an entire future with another man while lying in bed beside me. She had been the one laughing behind my back, calling me boring while she entertained fantasies of a different life. And yet, she had the audacity to look at me with those tear-stained eyes, begging for another chance. I exhaled sharply, leaning forward, elbows on my knees. A knock at the door made me lift my head. I wasn't expecting anyone. I stood, crossing the room in a few strides, and pulled the door open. It was Harrison Holloway, my father-in-law. I stared at him, momentarily taken aback. Harrison wasn't the kind of man to make unannounced visits. He commanded rooms with his presence, always in control, always a step ahead of everyone else. Tonight, though, he looked different, tired, older, like a man who had spent the entire night cleaning up his daughter's mess. I stepped aside, wordlessly, inviting him in. He entered, his sharp gaze scanning the room before he turned to face me. "Have a drink with me?" he said, holding up a bottle of whiskey. I hesitated. Then finally, I nodded. I grabbed 2 glasses from the minibar while he poured. The amber liquid caught the dim light. We sat opposite each other. The silence stretched long and heavy. Harrison took a slow sip, exhaling through his nose. Then he finally spoke. I should have seen this coming, I blinked. Of all the things I expected him to say, that wasn't one of them. He leaned back, swirling the whiskey in his glass. My daughter has always been ambitious, ruthless even. That's what made her successful in business. But somewhere along the way, she started believing she was untouchable. I said nothing. You're a good man, he continued, his gaze steady. Too good for her, if I'm being honest. I let out a hollow laugh. That would have been nice to hear a year ago. He smirked slightly, but it faded quickly. You exposed her. You embarrassed her in front of everyone. I should be furious. I tensed slightly, waiting for the inevitable blow. But I'm not. I raised a brow. He took another sip, sighing. You did what needed to be done. Isabel would have never admitted the truth on her own.